Hello everybody, this is Andy Night Warden here with a sketchbook tour for you. Today we'll be touring my current sketchbook, but don't let that word fool you. That doesn't mean this is new. I've had this for about 9 years and it's actually gotten so old, if you'll have a look, I am having to use Gorilla Tape to hold this together. So, I've had this for a very long time, and we'll be adopting a new one quite soon. Also, this is Eric. He is my wonderful little 1-year-old tabby cat. Say hi, Eric. Hi. Okay. Onward. Okay. Property of, disclaimer. Now then, this first drawing in here, most fan servicey one I've ever done, and the setting was supposed to be a sort of zombie apocalypse type sci-fi setting or something, but I really had no idea what I was drawing. But I decided to ink it, of all things. This picture, because there is none here, for whatever reason I didn't pick up on using the left side of the book until much later. Anyway, this second picture, I think I just wanted to draw swords, and I know it's somewhat hard to see, but in the middle of the sword with the more ornate hilt, there is a script cipher. I had invented that in high school, and I believe it says, "Let undead feel the sun." So, an undead slaying sword. This is a... I had in my head I wanted to draw a guy with scary armor and a wicked-looking sword. The problem was I was not using actual historical armor as an inspiration. I was using Yu-Gi-Oh! I believe the specific card that this was based on was the Black Luster Soldier, which I thought was pretty cool. This picture I drew when I was on a date with my wife. At the time, we were just engaged. Excuse me. Oh, come on, Eric. Back off. The character on the right was used in a Fire Emblem roleplay that I was a part of for a long time. His name was Khalad, based after the sword, and his last name was a reference to the Deku tree. His full name was Khalad Bulge Deku, named after the sword Khalad Bulg. He was supposed to be a parody deconstruction of Link. The character on the left was an NPC that I made up from the race of shape-shifting dragons. When at rest, they appeared human, but could at times unfurl their wings. One of the things I like about this picture is that, well, I sort of continued it in the next shot. She kind of surprise kissed him, and now they're hugging and kissing and making out, I guess. This picture was, well, as you can see, it's unfinished. I like to experiment when I draw with action shots, and this was one of those experiments, and it didn't turn out too well. I'm distinctly not pleased with the results. The character herself who is also in this profile drawing here, was inspired by the Fire Emblem character Nephany from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance for the GameCube. Yeah, I know. I'm an old-timer, right? Now this picture, this is one of my better drawings ever. It's a clip, or clipper, basically a fast cargo ship that got caught in a storm, and it's having to navigate its way through the choppy seas. Hope I did a good job with the shading and all that so that everything can be caught on camera. And yes, that is lightning in the corner. Now this woman, she was based on a mage class character from Fire Emblem. Usually they're in, at least the females are in dresses, variably long or short, and long capes. I have no idea what she was reaching for, but I had intended her to be on stairs. Also, you might notice her figure is a bit slim, and that's because up until more recently, I have not been good at drawing females. This was a sword that that Khalad character from before forged. He called it Remembrance. It's supposed to be a steel sword, and it is engraved with the name Michael on one side, and on the other, which I regrettably did not draw, was the name of his wife, Tanya. They were two people that he failed to save, and he got kind of depressed about that fact. Now, this guy. This was me trying to make a mage, sword-fighting mage. Part of the idea here, you'll see his hand is barely visible. That's because it's conjuring some form of indistinct magic around it. And I used that to make shadows fall actually on his body. That is not a piece of leather, that is a shadow from his sword. Also, the body casts a shadow on the scrap cape. I drew this picture before I learned much of anything about armor, which is why the armor looks so atrocious. You have the bits on the arm, which are steel above leather for the vambraces, a bunch of steel segmentata for the arms and shoulders. No idea how those would stay up without something on his neck. There's a leather placard. At the time, I just called it a gut protector. He's got some steel on the outside of his thighs, but not the inside where the veins are. And he's got pollens, and those are the steel kneecaps. It's not very good at designing armor back then. This guy. That last guy's name was Aralas. And yes, I know that sounds a lot like our loss now. I'm not good at coming up with names. This guy, I just called him Garrett, and he's that guy's long-lost brother fighting on the opposite side of the war of whatever setting I came up with. I was proud when I first made this, and it made a lot of sense to me. In one of my older sketchbooks, I did another drawing of him. His hair was more wild, and I think he appeared shorter, but anyway. The only reason I don't really like this picture much is because I think I made the arm a bit too long. Normally, guys' arms end at about the end of the vambrace here, and that includes the up to the this portion of the palm. and the fingers may go down for a little bit further, but that's usually it. This guy's hand almost comes down to his knees. So, yeah, the arm is terrible, but at least I got the shading right on the cape. The armor's not atrocious. He was supposed to be a dragon rider, but oh well. This was my first attempt at making, or at drawing a Gundam. Rather, I should say it is my only attempt at drawing a Gundam. Never again. This was an experimental pose. This was... Okay, she's another melee mage fighter. Swordswoman. I have no idea what's keeping that Vambrace plate on her arm, because up and, past that glove, her arm is bare. I should have drawn a strap there. And yeah, her name is Trinella, I think. Terrible at names. I thought this was an interesting idea for a pose, but I don't know. The expression I was going for was kind of, he's getting cocky, a bit too cocksure. Now then, this character is not finished, and it was never really a concrete character idea in the first place. It was just supposed to be a winged woman shooting a magic blast out of her hands, doing the whole Kamehameha thing. But the main focus wasn't her, it wasn't the blast, it was the wings. As you'll notice by how many pencil marks there are there, I spent a lot of time drawing those wings. Nowhere on any other picture that features a winged human did I ever go into as much detail on the wings. I actually had to reference the way actual wings looked in order to get it right. It looks good. Or the wings look good, I think. But as this next picture can attest, I never, ever worked that hard on the wings again. Another question I have about, winged humanoid characters. Okay, if I had not put the wings on there, that would just be a jacket with a full back. Since the wings are there, however, how is that thing attached? How is he wearing? How did he put that on? That's the biggest question that bothered me. How do they get their wings in their clothes? Especially when they're that huge in proportion. And I know that with a human body weight, wings that large wouldn't even let you fly. Barely let you glide. Anyway, another mage type character, and one of the actual characters I played. She was basically a homunculus created by a dark mage. But any pre-programmed instincts or thoughts or memories into her were erased, and then he was killed, and she was set adrift in a dinghy for I can't remember how long, washed up on an island of mages and became a mage herself. The costume was from a bit later in her adventures. Originally she wore a mini dress and a half cape on her shoulders. So I lengthened the dress, cut a slit up one side, and this portion is actually inspired by one of the spin-offs of Final Fantasy. Uh, um, there's a character named Genesis. Part of his coat was made up of a bunch of leather belts that were like stapled to each other in a lattice work. And I thought that looked cool at the time, not realizing how incredibly impractical it is. Now this was a free commission. I didn't charge any money for this, I just drew it because I said I would. It took me forever because I don't usually draw anything that has more than one subject, and I also don't usually draw a background. Now, this guy wasn't the commission, but I figured it would sort of make sense to put him there because this character was the commission. Her name is Marcianus Lillian Laika Badon. Her marquisate was in the port town of Badon, in a roleplay that was also Fire Emblem based. Her late husband gifted her with a Bernese dragon, a dragon from Bern. They were called wyverns in the localized setting. He's got a very big temper. She had to learn how to handle him, but she's fairly temperamental in her own right, and usually one of the few people that can deal with him. Can't quite remember what his name was. The character in the front is her, that's actually my character. I wrote him as being the most valorous of her vassals, and yeah, he was a lot of fun to play. Also, if you can't tell, I still did not know much about armor. These are wrong. Where's the chainmail? He's got no pauldrons. What is this? You know, just whole bunch of stuff. Also, why did I put the stupid designs on this? In any case, Blonde Panther, or Wildcats Galore, I don't know what your actual name is. This is that commission that you asked me to do, and I could never send it because I never had a proper scanner. So I'm sorry for taking so long with this. I hope you're watching. Here it is. If you want a copy, I have a decent scanner now, so I can try and send one to you, but just let me know if you want that. Here's another experimental action pose. I don't remember if it was supposed to be Osmond or not. I don't think it was. This was supposed to be Osmond. If that commission was in the present, this was supposed to be in his future. That's supposed to be a magic sword. I can't remember what kind. And I can't remember what I was going to have him do, because I never finished the picture, because I lost my muse. This was also supposed to be Osmond, but Kingdom Heartsified. You know, what if he was in Kingdom Hearts? What would his Keyblade look like? What would he look like? You know, that sort of thing. Now these I added later. This character was another, you'll find it's a trend. This was another character in a Fire Emblem roleplay that I was a part of. She was a member of what were called the Branded. Now the Branded were a quote-unquote cursed people. In the Fire Emblem Teleus series, there was two different races of people, and there were sub-races of one of those people. We're not sure about the other one. There might have been. My memory is somewhat. It's been a while since I've played those. Anyway, the two types of people were called the Bjork, or the Children of Wisdom, and the Laguz, or the Children of Strength. The Bjork are humans. That's it. And the Laguz are humans that can shapeshift into beast people naturally. They're living furries when they're at rest, and they are wildcats slash dragons slash birds. Anyway, with that information out of the way, she was a child of a hawk Laguz and a Bjork, which made her branded and basically stranded her mother in her humanoid form, which included functional wings. They moved to a desert town, and she was raised by she was raised by her parents and trained by a sword master until she decided she wanted to go wandering around the continent. Unfortunately for her, the branded were not legally recognized as a race, and matter of fact, were actually pretty hated and scorned and feared. So that, and she had never killed anyone before. She was one of my favorite characters to roleplay because she, I gave her PTSD in her first roleplay, and only made it worse with every subsequent roleplay. And as I was making it better, regrettably, that roleplay died, which was unfortunate. But the sword in her hand is called Frostbite. It was the result of multiple reforgings of her first sword, which was called Sharkbite. I've somewhat chronicled the transformation of the sword here. That's the original Sharkbite. It was literally just an arming sword with a serrated blade. Yeah, I know, horribly inefficient. I should have made it a flamberge, but whatever. The version 2.5, because I couldn't remember exactly how I did the detail, but I remembered that I gave it an enchantment at some point, made it somewhat longer, and kind of smoothed out the edges near the tip here. The enchantment was basically when you attacked something, there would be an echo of the blade sent back in time to add more force. No, wait. There would be an echo of the blade following, so that if you, when you hit something, a second blade hit it in the exact same place. It was a force multiplier, I think. This was the completed version of the sword. It was called Frostbite. It had an ice enchantment, close range, I think. Basically, the wound froze whenever you hit, so it hurt even more. And I think made you lose more blood potentially over time, but it's been a long time since I've looked at it. And I think that's actually where we're going to leave off today. There's so many more pictures in this book, and so many that I want to share with y'all, but I think this video has gone on long enough. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for clicking on this video. Subscribe if you like my content, and hope to see you again. Stay tuned.